After 15 years of marriage, my wife's lawyer walked into my bakery and served me divorce papers. He smiled and said, "She wants the bakery, the house, and full custody. Your son barely knows you exist." I calmly reached under the counter and handed him a sealed envelope. "Give this to your client," I said. What happened next changed everything. Let me tell you the whole story. First, thank you all for watching Granny's Tales. Your support means the world to us. If you enjoy our stories, please subscribe and let us know which city you're watching from. Today's special shout-out goes to Sarah Martinez from Chicago. We love having you here. Now, let's dive into this incredible story. I wasn't expecting any visitors that Tuesday morning. I was busy making my famous chocolate croissants when my assistant Maria told me a lawyer was waiting outside. I thought maybe it was about the new lease agreement. The man walked in wearing an expensive suit and a smug smile. He looked around my small bakery like he owned the place. Without any greeting, he slapped papers on my counter. "Mr. Rodriguez, you're being served," he said coldly. "Your wife wants a divorce." Before I could even react, he twisted the knife deeper. "She's asking for this bakery, your house, and complete custody of Diego. The boy says he wants nothing to do with you." I stared at him for what felt like forever. My heart was pounding, but I didn't show it. I just smiled, walked my safe behind the flour bags, and pulled out a manila envelope I kept there for 8 long years. Written on it in red marker were the words, "For Linda's eyes only." I slid it across the flour-covered counter. "Make sure she gets this," I said quietly. No yelling, no tears, no begging. He looked confused but took the envelope and left. I knew exactly what would happen next. By dinner time, my phone would be ringing nonstop. 8 years ago, I discovered something that broke my heart into a million pieces. It was during Diego's birthday party. He had just turned 7, and Linda's sister Carmen was visiting from Miami. I was in the kitchen getting more cake when I heard voices from the back porch. I wasn't trying to listen, but Carmen's voice was loud and angry. "You need to stop this, Linda," she hissed. "That man doesn't deserve what you're doing to him." My blood turned to ice. I stayed perfectly still behind the kitchen door. For the next 10 minutes, I heard things that made my world crumble. Linda had been taking money from the bakery for 2 years. Not just a little bit, but thousands of dollars. She had a secret bank account and was planning to leave me all along. But the worst part? She was seeing another man. Someone I trusted. Someone who ate at my table and played with my son. It was my business partner, Miguel, the man who helped me start the bakery. The man I called my best friend. They had been planning this for months. Linda would take half the business, claim I was a bad father, and run away with Miguel to start fresh somewhere else. I heard Linda tell Carmen, "Roberto works too much. He loves that stupid bakery more than his family. Miguel understands me." My heart felt like it was being ripped apart. But then she said something that made me furious. "Diego will be better off without his father anyway. Roberto is boring and has no ambition." I quietly recorded everything on my phone. I took pictures of bank statements she left on the counter. I found receipts for expensive dinners and hotel rooms. For 2 whole years, I gathered proof of everything they were doing behind my back. But I never used it. I kept hoping things would get better. I loved Linda with all my heart. I thought maybe she was just going through a difficult time. I worked harder at the bakery, brought her flowers, tried to spend more time at home. But nothing I did was enough. She became colder and more distant. She would take Diego out for whole weekends without telling me where they were going. She stopped cooking dinner and barely talked to me. When I asked what was wrong, she would just say I wouldn't understand. That night after the lawyer left, Linda's mother called me. She was crying and begging. "Roberto, please don't do this. Please don't show anyone what's in that envelope. If people find out what Linda did, it will destroy our family's reputation." I stayed calm. "I didn't start this war, Mrs. Gonzalez. Your daughter did. She sent a lawyer to my bakery like I was a stranger. She wanted to take my son and my business. So here's what's going to happen. She drops the custody fight, gives me back my money, and we split everything fairly. If she does that, the envelope stays sealed forever. Her voice cracked. She won't agree to that. She's too proud. I took a deep breath. Then I won't agree to stay quiet. The line went silent. Finally, she whispered, I'll talk to her. I hung up and sat in my empty apartment above the bakery. I had moved there 6 months ago when Linda asked for space. I remember packing my clothes with shaking hands, telling myself it was just temporary, that we would work things out. I never imagined she was using that time to build a case against me. What hurt most wasn't the betrayal or the lies. It was losing Diego, my 8-year-old son, who used to help me bake bread every Sunday morning. He would stand on a little stool, his hands covered in flour, laughing as we made shapes with the dough. I taught him how to crack eggs without breaking the yolk. I read him bedtime stories every single night. Now Linda was telling people I was a bad father, that Diego didn't want me. That was a lie so big it made my chest hurt. I was there for every scrape knee, every school play, every soccer game. I was the one who stayed up all night when he had fever. I was the one who taught him to ride a bike. But I didn't call Diego. I didn't want to put him in the middle of our fight. He was just a child. He didn't understand why Mommy and Daddy weren't living together anymore. Linda had probably told him stories to make him confused and scared. The next morning, Linda's lawyer called. His voice was different now. Not smug anymore, but nervous. My client is willing to discuss new terms, he said carefully. She wants to reach an agreement without going to court. I smiled even though he couldn't see me. I'm listening. Within an hour, we had a deal. Linda would return the money she took. We would split the bakery 50-50, but I would buy her half within 6 months. Most importantly, we would share custody of Diego equally. No lies, no games, no lawyers. It should have felt like winning, but it just felt empty. 15 years of marriage reduced to a business transaction. All those dreams we shared, all those plans we made, gone like smoke in the wind. I signed the papers because I wasn't fighting for a marriage anymore. I was fighting for my right to be Diego's father. I was fighting to keep the bakery I built with my own hands. And if the price of my dignity was a sealed envelope and a cold goodbye, then so be it. I still love Linda. Part of me always would. But love isn't enough when someone uses it as a weapon against you. When they try to destroy everything you care about just to get what they want. The day after we signed the agreement, I did something I hadn't done in months. I drove to Diego's school at pickup time. I wanted to see my son, even if it was just for a moment. When he saw me waiting by the playground, his face lit up like sunshine. "Papa," he yelled, running toward me with his backpack bouncing. He jumped into my arms like no time had passed at all. "I missed you so much. Mama said you were working, but I wanted to see you every day." My heart almost broke right there. Linda had been telling him I was too busy to visit. She made him think I didn't want to see him. I hugged him tight and whispered, "I will never be too busy for you, Mijo. Never, ever, ever." We went for ice cream and talked about everything. His new favorite book, the funny joke his friend told him, how he learned to whistle. For 2 hours, I felt like myself again, like a real father, not just a name on divorce papers. When I took him back to Linda's house, she was waiting on the porch with her arms crossed. She looked angry and embarrassed. "You can't just show up at a school without telling me," she said. I looked her straight in the eye. "He's my son, too. I don't need permission to love him." She started to argue, but Diego ran between us. "Mama, Papa took me for ice cream. He said we can bake cookies this weekend." Linda's face softened when she saw how happy Diego was. Maybe she realized that keeping us apart was hurting him more than anyone else. That night, I sat in my apartment above the bakery and opened the envelope for the first time in months. All the evidence was still there. Bank statements showing the stolen money. Photos of Linda and Miguel holding hands at expensive restaurants. Text messages where they planned their secret life together. I could have destroyed her reputation. I could have made sure everyone in town knew what she did. But looking at those papers, I felt nothing but sadness. This wasn't the woman I married. This wasn't the mother who sang lullabies to Diego when he was little. Sometimes people change in ways we can't understand. Sometimes the person you love becomes someone you don't recognize. Linda had made her choices, and now she had to live with them. But I didn't want to live with anger and revenge in my heart. I put the papers back in the envelope and sealed it again. Then I did something that surprised even me. I wrote forgiveness across the front in big letters. Not because she deserved it, but because I deserved peace. 3 days later, Miguel came to the bakery. He looked terrible. His eyes were red and his hands were shaking. "Roberto," he said quietly, "I need to talk to you." I didn't want to hear his excuses, but I let him speak anyway. "I'm sorry," he whispered. "I'm so sorry. I destroyed our friendship. I hurt you and Diego. I don't expect forgiveness, but I needed you to know that I regret everything." Tears were running down his face. "Linda and I, it's over. She doesn't want me anymore. I lost my best friend and the woman I thought I loved." I looked at this man who had been like a brother to me, who had helped me mix the first batch of dough in this bakery, who had celebrated with me when Diego was born. Anger would have been easier, but I was tired of carrying heavy feelings. "I forgive you, Miguel," I said simply, "but I can't trust you again. Please don't come back here." He nodded and walked away. I never saw him again, but I heard he moved to another state. Sometimes the consequences of our choices last forever. Linda's mother called me one more time. "Roberto," she said, "Linda wants to know if you'll ever tell Diego the truth about what happened." I thought about that for a long time. My son was still just a child. He didn't need to know about adult problems and broken promises. "If he asks when he's older, I'll tell him," I said. "But I won't poison his heart against his mother. Children need to love both their parents, even when the parents can't love each other anymore." That weekend, Diego came to stay with me. We baked chocolate chip cookies just like we used to. His little hands were covered in flour, and he was giggling as we rolled out the dough. "Papa," he said, "are you and Mama going to live together again?" I knelt down to his level and looked into his big brown eyes. "No, Mijo. Sometimes grown-ups can't live together anymore, but that doesn't mean we love you any less. You will always have 2 homes and 2 parents who think you're the most amazing boy in the world." He hugged me tight. "I love you, Papa." Those 4 words healed something in my heart that I thought was broken forever. Love isn't always romantic. Sometimes the purest love comes from a child who just wants to bake cookies with his father on a Saturday morning. 6 months later, I bought out Linda's half of the bakery. She moved to Miami with Carmen, but she still calls Diego every night. We're not friends, but we're not enemies either. We're just 2 people who share the most important thing in the world, our son. The bakery is busier than ever now. I hired new help and started offering cooking classes for kids. Every Saturday morning, the kitchen fills with laughter as children learn to bake bread and decorate cupcakes. Diego helps me teach them, wearing a little chef's hat that's too big for his head. "Look, Papa," he said last week, showing me a crooked cake a 6-year-old had made. She made this all by herself. His pride in helping others reminded me why I fell in love with baking in the first place. It's not about the money or success. It's about bringing joy to people's lives. I still have that envelope in my safe. Sometimes I see it when I'm getting supplies, and I remember how angry I used to be, how the betrayal felt like poison in my veins. But now it just reminds me that I chose forgiveness over revenge. I chose building something new over destroying something old. Linda sent me a letter last month. She didn't apologize exactly, but she thanked me for being a good father to Diego. She said she was getting counseling and trying to understand why she made such terrible choices. I hope she finds peace. I really do. One evening, as I was closing the bakery, a young couple came in. They were arguing about money and looked really stressed. I gave them 2 free cupcakes and told them to sit down. "Whatever you're fighting about," I said, "remember that you're on the same team. Don't let pride destroy something beautiful." They looked surprised, but they sat down and started talking instead of yelling. An hour later, they left holding hands. The woman turned back and said, "Thank you for reminding us what matters." That's when I knew I was exactly where I was supposed to be. My apartment above the bakery isn't fancy, but it's home. Every morning, I wake up to the smell of fresh bread. Every evening, Diego calls to tell me about his day. Every weekend, we bake together and watch movies on my old couch. It's simple, but it's real. I'm not the same man I was 2 years ago. That man was afraid of being alone. He thought he needed someone else to complete him. This man knows that happiness comes from inside. It comes from being true to yourself and choosing love over hate. Last month, a food magazine wanted to write a story about my bakery. They said I was inspiring because I never gave up after my divorce. I laughed and told them the real inspiration was my son, who teaches me every day that love is stronger than any mistake we make. The reporter asked if I would ever get married again. I thought about it and said, maybe someday, but only if I find someone who loves Diego as much as I do. Someone who understands that we're a package deal. Someone who knows that the best things in life are worth fighting for. Diego is 10 now, and he still helps me every weekend. Last Saturday, he said something that made me cry happy tears. Papa, when I grow up, I want to have a bakery just like yours. But I want to live upstairs too, so my kids can smell cookies every morning just like I do. That's when I knew I had won the only battle that really mattered. Not against Linda or Miguel or the lawyers. I had won the battle for my son's heart. I had shown him that a man can be strong and gentle at the same time, that forgiveness is braver than revenge. Some nights, I stand on my little balcony and look out at the city lights. I think about all the people out there who are fighting their own battles, people who feel betrayed and broken and alone. I want them to know that it gets better. Not easier, but better. You don't have to choose between being strong and being kind. You don't have to destroy someone else to rebuild yourself. Sometimes the bravest thing you can do is walk away with dignity and let time heal the wounds that seem impossible to fix. If you're going through a divorce or dealing with betrayal, remember this. You are not defined by what someone else did to you. You are defined by how you choose to respond. Will you choose anger or forgiveness? Will you choose revenge or rebuilding? Will you choose to be bitter or to be better? I chose to be better, and it made all the difference. My son has a father who shows up. My customers have a baker who puts love into every loaf. My community has a man who believes in second chances and fresh starts. 2 weeks ago, I saw Linda at Diego's school play. She was sitting 3 rows ahead of me with her new boyfriend. For a moment, I felt a stab of old pain. But then Diego spotted both of us in the audience and waved with the biggest smile on his face. After the play, we all stood together for pictures. It was awkward at first, but Diego was so happy to have both his parents there. Linda's boyfriend seemed like a nice man who was patient with Diego. That's all I could ask for, someone who treats my son with kindness. As we were leaving, Linda pulled me aside. "Thank you," she said quietly, "for not making this harder than it had to be, for being the man Diego needs you to be." I nodded. "He's worth it," I said. "He's worth everything." She smiled for the first time in years, and for just a moment, I saw the woman I fell in love with all those years ago. But I also saw that I didn't need her anymore. I had built a good life without her, a life filled with purpose and joy and the kind of love that can't be taken away by lawyers or lies or broken promises. That night, Diego and I made hot chocolate and talked about the play. "Papa," he said, "I'm glad you and Mama don't fight anymore. My friend Tommy's parents yell all the time, and it makes him sad." I hugged him close. "Adults sometimes make mistakes, Mijo, but the best thing we can do is learn from them and try to be better." He looked up at me with those wise eyes. "You're the best papa in the whole world," he said. "Even when you're sad, you still make the best cookies." I laughed and ruffled his hair. "That's because I put extra love in the recipe just for you." 6 months later, I got a call that surprised me. It was Miguel. He was in rehab, working on becoming a better person. "I know you probably don't want to hear from me," he said, "but I wanted you to know that your forgiveness saved my life. When you could have destroyed me but chose not to, it made me want to change." I listened as he told me about getting help for his problems and making amends to people he had hurt. "I'll never be able to fix what I broke," he said, "but I'm trying to make sure I never hurt anyone like that again." I was proud of him for trying to change, even though our friendship could never be repaired. The bakery has become more than just a business now. It's a place where people come to feel better. Single mothers bring their children for birthday cakes they can't afford, and I always find a reason to give them a discount. Elderly people stop by for coffee and conversation. Teenagers come in after school for cookies and advice. Last week, a young man about to get married asked me for relationship advice. "How do you know if someone really loves you?" he asked. I thought about Linda and Miguel and all the pain that came from broken trust. Real love is consistent, I said. It shows up every day, even when things get hard. It doesn't hide or lie or betray. It chooses you over and over again. He nodded and bought a dozen cupcakes for his fiancée. As he left, I felt grateful for the wisdom that came from my pain. I wouldn't wish heartbreak on anyone, but I was thankful for the lessons it taught me about resilience and forgiveness and the kind of love that never gives up. Diego is 11 now, and he's starting to ask more questions about the divorce. "Why couldn't you and Mama fix things?" he asked last weekend. I thought carefully before answering. Sometimes people grow in different directions. Son, it doesn't mean anyone is bad, just that they're not right for each other anymore. He was quiet for a moment. "But you're still friend, right?" I smiled. "We're Diego's parents, and that's the most important thing we'll ever be together." That seemed to satisfy him. Children need simple answers to complicated questions. They need to know that even when families change, love remains. 3 years have passed since that awful day when the lawyer walked into my bakery. 3 years of rebuilding, healing, and learning to be happy again. My life looks nothing like I thought it would, but it's beautiful in ways I never expected. The envelope is still in my safe, but it's not a weapon anymore. It's a reminder that I had the power to destroy someone and chose not to use it. That's the kind of man I want Diego to remember. Not someone who got revenge, but someone who chose to rise above the hurt and build something better. Every morning when I unlock the bakery, I say a little prayer of gratitude for second chances and fresh starts, for a son who loves me unconditionally, for customers who trust me with their celebrations and sorrows, for the strength to forgive when forgiveness seemed impossible. Last month, a woman came into the bakery crying. Her husband had just left her, and she didn't know how she was going to take care of her 2 small children. I made her a cup of tea and listened to her story. When she was done, I said, "The pain you're feeling right now is real, but it's not forever. You're stronger than you know, and your children need you to believe in tomorrow." I gave her a dozen cookies for her kids and my phone number. "Call me if you need someone to talk to," I said. "You're not alone in this." She hugged me and whispered, "Thank you for giving me hope." That's when I knew my pain had found its purpose. Diego and I have a tradition now. Every Sunday evening, we sit on the balcony and watch the sunset. We talk about the week, make plans for the future, and share our favorite memories. Last Sunday, he said something that took my breath away. "Papa, I'm proud of you." I looked at him in surprise. "Why, Mijo?" He thought for a moment. "Because when bad things happen, you didn't become a bad person. You became an even better person. My friends' dads are always angry, but you're not. You choose to be happy." Out of the mouths of children comes the deepest truth. I had spent so long thinking I had failed at marriage, failed at business partnership, failed at trust. But my son saw something different. He saw a man who faced betrayal with grace, who chose forgiveness over bitterness, who rebuilt his life with purpose and joy. That night, I took out the envelope one last time. I held it for a moment, remembering all the pain it represented. Then I did something I should have done years ago. I tore it up and threw it away. Some secrets are meant to be buried forever. The next morning felt different, lighter, like I had finally let go of the last chain connecting me to that dark time. I was completely free now, free to love without fear, free to trust without paranoia, free to build without looking over my shoulder. A customer noticed the change immediately. "You look happy today," she said as I handed her a loaf of fresh bread. I smiled. I am happy. For the first time in years, I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be. And I meant every word. Diego's birthday is next week. He'll be 12. He wants to have his party at the bakery so all his friends can learn to decorate cupcakes. Linda called to ask if she could help with the planning. Of course, I said. It's his day. He should have both his parents there. She was quiet for a moment. You're a good man, Roberto. I'm sorry it took me so long to see it. I wasn't angry anymore. Just sad for the time we wasted and grateful for the son we created together. We both did our best with what we knew then, I said. Now we know better. That conversation felt like the final chapter of our old story. We would always be connected through Diego, but we were finally at peace with each other. No more lawyers, no more envelopes, no more secrets. Just two people who shared a child and wanted him to be happy. I've started dating again. Nothing serious yet, just coffee dates and walks in park. It feels strange to open my heart again, but I'm ready. I know now what I want in a partner. Someone kind and honest. Someone who sees Diego as a blessing, not a burden. Someone who understands that love is a choice you make every day, not just a feeling. The bakery is expanding. I'm opening a second location across town, and Diego wants to help design the kids' area. We need a place where families can bake together, he said. Like we do, but for everyone. His heart is so big, so full of love for others. I know he's going to change the world someday. People often ask me if I regret staying quiet about Linda's betrayal. If I wish I had exposed her and Miguel from the beginning. The answer is always a no. Revenge might have felt good for a moment, but forgiveness has felt good for years. My story isn't unique. Millions of people face betrayal and heartbreak every day, but each of us gets to choose how we respond. We can choose to become bitter or better. We can choose to tear down or build up. We can choose to live in the past or create a beautiful future. I chose to create something beautiful, a bakery that feeds people's bodies and souls, a relationship with my son that grows stronger every day, a life filled with purpose and peace. And most importantly, I chose to become the kind of man my son can be proud of. Last week, a reporter asked me what advice I would give other divorced fathers. I thought about it carefully. Love your children more than you hate your ex-wife, I said. Show them that real men solve problems with wisdom, not anger. Teach them that forgiveness isn't about the other person. It's about freeing yourself. The reporter scribbled notes furiously. But didn't you want revenge? She asked. I smiled and pointed to a photo on the wall. It showed Diego and me covered in flour, laughing as we held up a lopsided cake. That's my revenge, I said. Happiness is the best revenge of all. Every night before I go to sleep, I look out my window at the city lights and feel grateful. Grateful for the hard lessons that made me stronger. Grateful for the second chances that made me wiser. Grateful for the love that never gave up, even when everything else fell apart. My life isn't perfect. I'm a single father running a small business in an expensive city. Some days are harder than others. But it's my life, built on truth and forgiveness and the kind of love that lasts forever. And that's worth more than any revenge could ever be. If you're going through something similar, remember this. Your story isn't over. The pain you're feeling right now is real, but it's not permanent. You have the power to choose how this chapter ends. Will you choose love or hate? Will you choose to build or destroy? Will you choose to be a victim or victor? I chose to be a victor. Not over Linda or Miguel, but over my own anger and pain. I chose to show my son that good men don't get revenge, they get better. They build better lives, create better relationships, and leave the world a little brighter than they found it. Diego is sleeping now, dreaming of tomorrow's baking lesson. In a few hours, I'll wake up to another day of fresh bread and happy customers. Another day of being exactly who I was meant to be. A father, a baker, a man who learned that the sweetest victory comes not from defeating your enemies, but from becoming someone your children can admire. The envelope is gone, but the lesson remains. Sometimes the greatest power we have is the power we choose not to use. Sometimes the strongest thing we can do is walk away. Sometimes the best revenge is building a life so beautiful that the past can't touch it. 3 years ago, I thought my life was ending. Today, I know it was just beginning. The man who got served divorce papers in his bakery is gone. In his place stands someone stronger, wiser, and infinitely more at peace. Someone who knows that love wins, forgiveness heals, and the future is always brighter than the past. Tomorrow, Diego and I will bake cookies for his school fundraiser. We'll laugh and make a mess and create memories that will last forever. And I'll remember once again that the best things in life aren't things at all. They're moments of pure joy shared with the people we love most. My name is Roberto Rodriguez. I'm a baker, a father, and a man who learned that sometimes you have to lose everything to find yourself. I learned that forgiveness isn't weakness. It's the strongest thing a person can do. I learned that love doesn't always look like we expect it to, but it's always worth fighting for. If my story helps even one person choose healing over hurt, then every painful moment was worth it, because that's what we're here for, to help each other find the light in the darkness and the hope in the heartbreak. Thank you for listening to my story. Thank you for being part of Granny's Tales, where we believe that every ending is really just a new beginning. Every setback is a setup for a comeback. Every broken heart can learn to love again, stronger and wiser than before. Share this story with someone who needs to hear it. Someone who's facing their own divorce papers, their own betrayal, their own moment of choice. Remind them that they have the power to write their own ending. And sometimes, the most beautiful endings come from the most painful beginnings. Until next time, remember this. You are stronger than your struggles, braver than your fears, and more loved than you know. Your story matters. Your choices matter. And no matter what paper someone serves you, no matter what envelope you're holding, you always have the power to choose love over revenge, forgiveness over bitterness. Diego just turned 12 last weekend. His party at the bakery was perfect. Linda came, and we worked together to make sure he had the best day ever. Watching him laugh with his friends, covered in frosting and pure joy, I knew I had made all the right choices. This is what victory looks like. Not destroying your enemies, but building something so beautiful they can't touch it. The new bakery location opens next month. Diego designed a special corner where kids can bake with their parents every Saturday morning. Just like we do, Papa, he said proudly, but for families who need to remember how to be happy together. At 12 years old, he already understands that food is love, that kitchens are where hearts heal, and that the best recipes can't be written down. They have to be felt. My assistant Maria asked me yesterday if I ever wonder what would have happened if I had used that envelope differently, if I had destroyed Linda's reputation and sent Miguel to jail. Do you ever regret taking a high road? She asked. I looked around the bustling bakery, listened to Diego's laughter echoing from the kitchen, and smiled. Never, I said. This road led me exactly where I needed to be. Last month, I got a letter from a man whose arm was injured in a Harold construction accident from the original story I heard about. Somehow, he had found out about my situation and wanted me to know that my choice to stay silent gave him the strength to forgive too. Your story reminded me that bitterness is a prison we build for ourselves, he wrote. Thank you for showing me the key to freedom. That's when I understood that our choices ripple out in ways we never expect. Every act of forgiveness, every choice to build instead of destroy, every decision to love instead of hate, they all matter. They all make the world a little brighter for someone else who's struggling in the darkness. Diego and I still have our Sunday sunset talks on the balcony. Last week, he asked me something that made my heart skip a beat. Papa, when I get married someday, will you teach my wife how to make your chocolate chip cookies? The ones with the secret ingredient. I hugged him tight and whispered, the secret ingredient is love, Mijo. And yes, I'll teach her everything I know about love and baking and choosing happiness every single day. He was quiet for a moment, then said, I want to marry someone like you, Papa. Someone who chooses to be kind even when people are mean to them. That's when I knew that all the pain had been worth it. My son had learned the most important lesson of all, that real strength comes from gentleness, real power comes from forgiveness, and real victory comes from loving well. The bakery smells like cinnamon and hope this morning. Diego is helping me prepare for the lunch rush, wearing his favorite apron that says Future Baker in bright red letters. A young couple just got engaged at table 6. Sharing the same chocolate croissants, I was making the day everything changed. Life has come full circle, but this time, it's filled with joy instead of sorrow. I'm not the same man who got served divorce papers 3 years ago. That man was afraid. angry and broken. This man is strong, peaceful, and whole, not because nothing bad ever happened to him, but because he learned to transform pain into purpose, betrayal into blessing, and endings into beautiful new beginnings. If you're watching this and going through your own dark time, remember Roberto's story. Remember that you have a choice. You can let bitterness consume you, or you can let it teach you. You can use your pain as a weapon, or you can use it as wisdom. You can build walls around your heart, or you can build bridges toward a better future. The envelope is gone, but the love remains. The marriage ended, but the father's heart grew stronger. The betrayal hurt, but the forgiveness healed. And in the end, that's what matters most. Not what happens to us, but what we choose to do because of what happens to us. Diego is calling me from the kitchen. Papa, the timer is beeping. The cookies are ready. I smile and head toward the sound of his voice, toward the smell of fresh-baked love, toward another day of choosing joy over sorrow, hope over fear, and light over darkness. This is Roberto Rodriguez, signing off from Granny's Tales. Remember, every story has a potential for a happy ending if we're brave enough to write it ourselves. Every broken heart can learn to beat stronger. Every closed door can lead to an open window. And every divorce paper can become the first page of a brand new chapter filled with possibility. Keep baking, keep loving, keep forgiving, and keep believing that your best days are still ahead of you. Because they are. They absolutely are. Before we end, I want to hear from you. Have you ever faced betrayal from someone you trusted? How did you choose to respond? Did you take the high road or the low road? What would you have done with Roberto's envelope? Share your story in the comments below. Your experience might be exactly what someone else needs to hear today. And remember, if you enjoyed the story of forgiveness and second chances, please give a thumbs up and subscribe to Granny's Tales. We share stories of real people facing real challenges and finding real hope. Stories that remind us that no matter how dark the night gets, the sun always rises again. Until next time, keep choosing love. Keep choosing forgiveness. Keep choosing to be the person your children can be proud of. Because in the end, that's the only victory that really matters. Becoming someone worthy of the love you hope to receive. This is Granny's Tales, where every ending is just a beginning in disguise. Thank you for being part of our family. Thank you for believing that people can change, hearts can heal, and love really does win in the end. See you in the next story, where we'll share another tale of courage, hope, and the amazing power of the human heart to overcome anything. Keep baking those cookies of kindness. Friends, the world needs more sweetness, and it starts with each of us choosing to add a little more love to every recipe, every relationship, and every day we're blessed to be alive. Roberto's Bakery is still there on 5th Street, filling the neighborhood with the smell of fresh bread and second chances. Diego is now 13 and already talking about culinary school. Linda has found her own piece of Miami and calls every Sunday to check on her son. The envelope is gone, but the lessons it taught live on in every choice Roberto makes, every cookie he bakes, and every customer he serves with smile. Sometimes the greatest victories are the ones nobody sees. The choice to forgive when no one would blame you for staying angry. The decision to build when it would be easier to destroy. The courage to love again when your heart has been shattered into a million pieces. That's Roberto's legacy. Not the envelope he could have used, but the love he chose instead. Not the revenge he could have taken, but the peace he built instead. Not the bitterness he could have carried, but the joy he created instead. And now, every morning when the sun rises over his little bakery, when Diego's laughter fills the kitchen, when customers line up for their daily dose of fresh-baked happiness, Roberto knows he made the right choice. He chose love. He chose forgiveness. He chose to be better instead of bitter. The divorce papers that arrived that terrible Tuesday morning weren't the end of Roberto's story. They were just the beginning of a new chapter. A chapter filled with purpose, peace, and the kind of happiness that can only come from knowing you did the right thing, even when no one was watching. So here's to Roberto, to Diego, to second chances, and to the amazing power of choosing love over revenge. Here's to sealed envelopes that stay sealed, to hearts that choose healing, and the stories that remind us that even in our darkest moments, we have the power to choose the light. Thank you for joining us on this journey. Thank you for believing in the power of forgiveness, the strength of love, and the beauty of second chances. Until we meet again in the next story, remember this: you are the author of your own tale. Make it a story worth telling. Make it a story full of love. This has been Granny's Tales. See you next time, friends.